to stop the assassin, you must become the assassin.
Ballerina's big screen debut has reignited the John Wick universe, this time with Cuban star Ana de Armas taking the lead. Fans and critics are calling it a strong follow-up to Keanu Reeves' action legacy. But with that jaw-dropping ending, everyone's left wondering the same thing. Is a sequel on the way? Len Wiseman isn't holding back when it comes to talking about a possible sequel. In a chat with Entertainment Weekly, he shared exactly how he sees Eve's story moving forward. She's checked into the Continental, and her next step is understanding that her whole life has been a lie, Wiseman says. Now she understands what her father was doing for her. She understands her origins. I made a choice, I have the answers I needed, but this world has consequences. That's a heavy realization. Eve thought she'd finally reached closure, but instead she's just cracked open a whole new set of problems. Wiseman also teases where Ballerina 2 could head next. Think back to what the Chancellor told Eve before he died. This cycle will continue. If you kill me, you cut off the head of the snake, but the body is still alive. Those weren't just ominous last words, they were a warning. Wiseman makes it clear that the rest of the cult won't let Eve walk away. They'll be coming for her in full force, since she definitely didn't wipe them all out the first time. Overall, there's definitely plenty of room for a solid second part, and I'd be excited to see where they take it. The only thing I'm hoping for in Ballerina 2 is less John Wick. Not because I don't like him, but because he has such a big presence that he risks overshadowing Eve. It would be way more interesting if the sequel focused on other characters instead. Take the Adjudicator, for example. Since Eve's story will probably cross paths with the High Table, it makes sense that some familiar faces could pop up. The Adjudicator feels like the perfect choice. We last saw her in John Wick 3, where she teamed up with Winston to punish John after he killed Santino D'Antonio against the rules. What makes her stand out is how different her style is compared to other villains. She doesn't fight much herself. She's calm, composed, and lets her loyal followers do the dirty work. That could make for an interesting contrast, since Eve has already shown she can go toe-to-toe with anyone in a fight. Watching her handle a more subtle, indirect threat like the Adjudicator would add a fresh dynamic to the story. Another character who'd be great to bring back is Sophia Al-Azwar, played by Halle Berry. Her appearance in Parabellum is a big reason why so many fans consider it the best John Wick movie, yet the franchise hasn't used her again since. In the third film, she runs the Casablanca branch of the Continental and helps John when he goes to Morocco in search of the Elder after his exile. Sophia also gets one of the standout action scenes of the entire series, teaming up with her highly trained dogs to take down the mercenaries chasing John. It's easily one of the most unforgettable moments in the franchise. Having her show up in Ballerina would definitely get audiences hyped. Even if Eve doesn't end up traveling to Casablanca, there's always the chance that Sophia could be in New York, possibly stepping in to protect Eve as a favor to John. That kind of crossover would make for an awesome reunion and give fans more of a character they've been wanting to see return. Next up is Cassian, played by Common. His role in John Wick Chapter 2 might have been brief, but it was unforgettable. The showdown between him and John gave us one of the most intense and surprisingly funny fight scenes in the whole franchise. Now, on the surface, it's tough to see how Cassian would tie into Eve's story, since his main connection was with the D'Antonio crime family. But in the John Wick universe, anything can happen. It wouldn't be hard to explain that after the deaths of Gianna and Santino, Cassian switched over to another crime family. That move could easily bring him back into the picture, this time as someone sent to hunt down Eve in Ballerina 2. If he were to show up, it would definitely be unexpected, but in the best way. Cassian's return would be a huge surprise for fans and a great way to add another layer of excitement to the sequel. And of course, we can't forget Mr. Nobody, played by Shamir Anderson. He was introduced in John Wick Chapter 4, and it didn't take long for him to become a fan favorite. With his dry humor, sharp instincts, and layered morals, he stood out right away. Mr. Nobody is a talented tracker who was hired by the Marquis to go after John, but as the chase through Paris unfolded, he started to respect him. By the end, he was clearly shaken when it looked like John had been killed. Anderson's performance was one of the highlights of the movie, making his return a no-brainer. Plenty of one-off hitmen have tried to collect bounties on John Wick, but Mr. Nobody is by far the most compelling of the bunch. Considering Ballerina ends with a $5 million price on Eve's head, it makes perfect sense for him to be drawn into her story. And with his history of conflicted loyalties, there's always the possibility he might end up teaming with her rather than taking her down. That kind of dynamic would bring a fresh angle to Ballerina 2, while keeping one of the franchise's best new characters in play. Also, there is Kane. His return feels almost inevitable. With Donnie Yen already confirmed to headline his own spin-off, slipping him into Ballerina 2 would be a smart way to tie the wider John Wick universe together. There's been a lot of chatter about who might carry the franchise forward once Keanu Reeves eventually bows out, and if Eve and Kane are both candidates, it makes sense to have them share the spotlight at least once. In John Wick 4, Kane was pushed into serving the Marquis, which positioned him as more of an antagonist. But thanks to his history with John, he came across as complex and sympathetic instead of a straightforward villain. Ballerina 2 could give audiences a chance to see him in a more heroic role, now free from the high table's control. That would not only deepen his character, but also make his eventual solo spin-off feel even more meaningful. Then there's the Bowery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne, who feels like the most natural crossover choice for Eve's story. Since she'll likely be seeking shelter in New York's underworld, it's easy to imagine their paths crossing. John himself might even send her his way, knowing the Bowery King is one of the few people who understands what it means to be hunted by everyone. Including him in the Ballerina 2 would also be a perfect chance to finally expand on his backstory, which so far has only been teased in the main films. Lionsgate once considered a Bowery King spin-off, showing they've got ideas for the character, but nothing came of it. Folding those ideas into Ballerina's world could be the perfect way to give the Bowery King the spotlight he deserves while further enriching Eve's story. Lastly, there's the High Table Elders. Even though it's been confirmed that the High Table won't be a focus in John Wick 5, that doesn't mean they're completely out of the picture. In fact, it feels pretty likely that both Ballerina 2 and the upcoming Kane spin-off will feature them in some way, especially since Eve's bounty would definitely grab the attention of the global crime syndicate. That opens the door for the sequel to finally shine a light on one of the most mysterious figures in the entire universe, the Elder. Well, that's it for today. If you could pick one character to make a comeback in Ballerina 2, who would it be and why? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe because we'll be covering more updates on this soon and other exciting upcoming movies and series. We'll see you next time.